Guys, I'm Lizzie. Here's 5 tips and tricks every equestrian should know. I have multiple videos like this, so if you like these kind of videos, go ahead and subscribe and you can find them on my YouTube channel. I'll link some up here. So let's just jump right in with these, shall we? Tip number 1, whenever you're handling a lead rope, whether you're leading a horse or lunging them, whatever, always remember this. Never wrap the rope around your hand so that there's loops around your hand. You never want your hand trapped in the lead rope. It's extremely common for beginners to do this, and a lot of people end up getting dragged and their hand broken, multiple fingers broken, whatever. So just to avoid that scary scenario, never wrap your hand in the lead rope like this. You always want the rope sitting on top of your hand so that there's nothing actually wrapping around your hand. That way, if the horse pulls and pulls all the way through, your hand's not going to be caught in there. But if your hand is fully wrapped in that rope and the horse pulls, suddenly your hand is getting caught in a knot and you're going to get dragged and your hand is probably going to get broken or finger broken. Something is going to break. So it can be hard to remember sometimes and hard to practice, especially when you're dealing with a really long lead rope, but it's a really good thing to remember and to practice. And if you ever catch yourself with the lead rope wrapped around your hand, immediately just drop it if you have to, because that's better than getting your hand caught. Number 2, we're gonna learn how to find the right cinch length for your horse. Now, I need Stella to be able to stand square while I get her measurements, so I brought her onto the dirt road so she won't be distracted by grass as much. So before you start, it might be easier to first locate where you want your buckle to sit and mark that out, just to make the measuring process a little easier. So figuring out the location for your buckle may be easier or harder on some horses, because some horses it's really easy to see the muscle lines. Other horses it's harder to tell. Depends on their fat and how muscular they are, and yeah. Stella is a little chunky here, so her muscle lines are a little bit harder to see, but in some better lighting it's easier to see the lines. So let's map this area out. Down here you have your pectoral muscle, and right above your pectoral muscle is your lateral thoracic vein, and you want your buckle to sit above that. You don't want your buckle sitting on the edge or on top of that muscle. Then up here you have your latissimus muscle, and you really don't want your cinch buckle sitting on top of the edge of that latissimus muscle. So you either want it in between the latissimus muscle and the pectoral muscle, right in this area, or you want it directly on top of the latissimus muscle, not on the edge, but on top. So we've got our area figured out about right in this area. You want it above the horse's elbow so that they have free range of motion in their shoulder and their elbow and their leg, and you're not going to be pinching any muscles. So you have your area figured out right here. It might be easier if you had a piece of chalk. You could run a little line where you want the top of your cinch to be. So now let's measure for our cinch length. I just have a cloth tape measure that I stole from my sister's sewing drawer. So what you're gonna do is you're going to find the center of their chest, and you're gonna run your hand down until you're between their legs into their sternum. You're gonna take the end of your tape measure, you're gonna hold it there, and you're gonna run it up to that spot that you located earlier. So whatever number you come out to is going to be half of whatever the size cinch you're gonna need. So if you come out to a 15-inch, that means you need a 30-inch cinch. And remember, you're measuring inside the sternum, which is going to be the highest point in your horse's chest. So you're going to find the highest point in the horse's chest, which is the sternum, and you're going to run it straight up into your little location spot. And that's how you measure your horse to the correct size cinch. Number 3 is how to find the right size bit for your horse. Now I'm going to use the savvy string on my carrot stick for this, but you can use a rope or a very straight stick, or they even make a tool for this. But first you want to keep in mind that a well-fitting bit will have an 1/8 to 1/4 inch of gap on both sides of the horse's lips. So you want to measure for your bit to be at least a 1/4 to 1/2 inch larger than your measurement. But this also depends on the type of bit that you're planning on using. So depending on the type of bit, you might want to do your research just to make sure how it's supposed to fit in your horse's mouth. So I'm going to take my rope and I'm going to put it in my horse's mouth, and I'm going to pinch the sides of where her lips are for that measurement. Then I'm going to hold this up to my tape measure and see the size bit that she'll need. Good job. You want to make sure that you hold it up in the right area that the bit will be sitting. Make sure you hold it tight so she can't bend it. So I've got it pinched. Now I'm going to take this measurement and I'm going to hold it up to my tape measure. Now I'm going to take my measuring tape. I'm going to hold it up from the knot to where my fingers are pinching. And as you can see, probably can't because this tape measure is very faded, but that is 4.5 inches, give or take a little bit, which is exactly the size bit that I have for her. Number 4 is a tip on how to put your saddle on gently. So obviously first we start with our saddle pad. Now obviously you could just swing this over, slap it on their back, but that causes your stirrup to swing over and knock their side and their elbow really painfully. So you want to do this gently. Some people swing their stirrup up and put it on their horn, or you can learn how to do this gently without having to do that. So what I do is I hold the saddle up as high as I can, and instead of swinging, I want to try to keep that stirrup really still. So I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to try to get that stirrup to like set on her side and slide down instead of swinging over and thumping her. Like so. Let's see it from the other direction. I got accused once of roughly putting on my saddle and breaking my horse's elbow with the stirrup. So I've been a little bit more conscious since then, although I was never rough putting the saddle on, but just something to keep in mind. And that brings me to my tip number 5. So when you first put your saddle on your horse, it's going to cause your saddle pad to sit very tightly on your horse's back. It doesn't matter if you have a wither relief or spine relief. It's really important that you tent your saddle pad and push that saddle up into your tree's gullet channel. You really don't want any pressure on your horse's wither or spine, and although the spine relief and the wither relief is very nice to have, it doesn't do everything, doesn't keep all the pressure off your horse's back if the pad is still tightly pinched on your horse's wither and spine. So always tent your saddle pad. Doesn't matter what kind of saddle pad you have. And also, you only ever want to use a saddle pad that is contoured to the shape of the horse's withers, so it goes up at the withers. You never want to use a pad that is perfectly flat, because that's never going to fit your horse's shape well, and that's always going to pinch their withers. Even if you're very aware about tenting your pad, it's going to eventually always pinch on your horse's withers. But that wraps up all of my tips for today. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, give it a big like and subscribe. Again, I have multiple videos like this one, so don't forget to go check those out. You can go follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll see you guys next week Sunday. Bye!